Welcome to Speak for America. I'm Bill Spadea. It is great to have you with us on our brand new show. From the biggest national and international headlines to local stories from New Jersey to California and everywhere in between. America, we've got you covered. Let's jump right in. President Trump says he'll devote part of Thursday night's primetime address to new findings on the security of American elections. Speaking in the Oval Office, the president called it really big news.
It's really big news. It's really, really big news. And our country has to shape up. But that's what we're going to be talking about Thursday is it doesn't get bigger, because without free and fair elections, you don't have a country. We'll be discussing other things too, but it's going to be a very big announcement, yeah.
The speech is set for 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It comes as Trump continues to question the 2020 election results. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed the Save America Act, bundling voter ID requirements, proof of citizenship for voting, and an end to seasonal clock changes into a must-pass national security funding bill. The measure passed 215 to 211 along party lines. Supporters say it will secure elections. It now heads to the U.S. Senate. Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky is blasting his own party, saying it's ironic that Republicans now control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the White House, yet continue to talk about election fraud.
I think it's ironic that we control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the White House, and we're yelling election fraud. I mean, we won all the damn elections, and we're in charge, and what are we doing with it? We're bankrupting the country, we're starting new wars, we're violating the Constitution, we're not cracking down on the fraud. The problem is not the elections. We won the damn elections. The problem is we're wasting our opportunity that the voters gave us.
There's no doubt this is going to be an ongoing fight within the Republican Party. Massie is saying Republicans will pay for complaining about election integrity come November. We'll have to see. We'll keep you posted, of course, as it develops. Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Nordone, has been officially sworn in as South Carolina's interim United States Senator, escorted onto the floor by Senator Tim Scott and sworn in by Senator Chuck Grassley. The chamber erupted in applause as she took the oath. The appointment fills the vacancy left by her brother, who passed away unexpectedly and suddenly this past weekend. The sudden death of Senator Lindsey Graham and the prolonged absence of Senator Mitch McConnell are casting a long shadow over Capitol Hill this week, with Republicans holding a razor-thin majority. These two veteran leaders, one gone forever, the other sidelined by health issues, are forcing Senate Majority Leader John Thune to navigate a dramatically altered landscape. How this will reshape President Trump's agenda on defense, spending, nominations, and what does it mean for the 2026 midterms? Joining me now, Paul Teller, president of Teller Strategies and longtime conservative strategist who spent time in the Trump White House and as chief of staff of Senator Ted Cruz. Paul, always great to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Great to see you. And I have to say, I noticed that your old facial hair, I think, made its way to Thomas Massie's face. I don't know how that happened. So.
we have swapped. I think you're right, Paul.
Right.
So let's talk about Senator Graham's sudden passing, and Senator McConnell's ongoing recovery. Well, let's say we don't really know what's going on at all with Senator McConnell, but let's talk about Lindsey Graham for a moment. Two key voices now not in the Senate. So just walk us through what this means, in particular with the senator's sister taking the job. I mean, I don't know that anyone knew anything about her other than Senator Graham raised her when they were orphaned by their parents passing. What do we know about her, and what does she bring to the caucus?
It's a great point. In fact, what's amazing is not only do we seem to not know anything about the new Senator Graham, no one even seems to be asking. Like, it almost seems like an impolite question to ask in Washington right now is, who is this new Senator Graham? We don't know. And my gut is that she probably doesn't have a lot of strong opinions. I'm only saying that. Right. In other words, if she were at all, a principled conservative, it probably wouldn't have happened, at least not that fast. So unfortunately, I have a feeling we're going to have possibly another, more moderate senator from her. But I'm hopefully wrong. Hopefully that's wrong.
Well, and of course, now with the Save America Act heading to the Senate, every single vote counts. With the 53 senators, we're now down to 52 with Senator McConnell being out, although he was a no vote, as we understood anyway. I want to ask your insight. There was a lot of push about Senator Graham and his legacy in terms of being a staunch conservative. And it seems that a lot of people have forgotten that he fought Donald Trump tooth and nail in 2016. And a lot of conservatives, especially fiscal conservatives who are not endless war neocons, look at Senator Lindsey Graham as the chief driver of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, and emboldening the president there, Zelensky, to take a poke at Belarus and talk about now a new resolution and new sanctions on Russia. Do you think, Paul, that the tension in Ukraine and Russia might actually calm down a little bit now, and the president might be able to intervene and get this war over?
No, it's interesting. And first of all, you're exactly right. I mean, I think maybe it's just the sudden shock of the passing of Senator Graham is just bringing out everyone's best feelings about him. Because I think, to be honest, I think the popular opinion of him around Washington, around the conservative world that where I spend most of my time, was mixed feelings for Senator Graham.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, on the issue of life, very strong senator on the abortion cause, on the life cause. On Israel, if you're pro-Israel, right? If you're anti-Hamas, you want Senator Graham in your corner. He's not only with you, right? Just the best. So I think maybe people are focusing on the positive, in his absence, in this sudden death, feeling the positive feelings come up more strongly. But you're exactly right. Let's not forget, it has been a mixed record over the years. Immigration, right, has been a huge mixed bag when it comes to Senator Graham. So federal spending, right, big proponent of increasing spending and, not necessarily cutting waste and things like that. So, yes, the truth is it is a mixed record, certainly from the perspective of conservatives. But, yeah, in terms of whether his absence will change President Trump's thinking, not sure, because ultimately he is still just one voice, an important voice, but still just one voice. And if anything, maybe that changes things in Ukraine. Is we're seeing a weakening of Vladimir Putin, right? If you just look at all indications, he does seem to be kind of losing control even over some of his own traditional allies in Russia. There's deeper and deeper strikes from Ukraine into Russia, and et cetera, et cetera. So there could be an end for other reasons, irrespective of Senator Graham.
Interesting. Real quick, let's talk about Israel. You're right to point out Lindsey Graham was a champion of Israel. I've talked to several folks, some of the correspondents that I work with who are based in Israel, and everybody felt like this is a very dangerous time because you lose a voice like Lindsey Graham, the pro-Israel voice. There are pockets within the Republican Party that are starting to now turn negative on Netanyahu and Israel. And certainly the Democrat Party has gone full on being advocates for Hamas. So where does this vacuum leave in terms of our relationship with one of our strongest allies, if not the strongest ally?
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, the good news is there's still plenty of strong voices left, but that, losing Senator Graham, that is a big loss for the pro-Israel cause. Not only, again, because he was with us ideologically, but just such passion, right? And just unapologetically standing shoulder to shoulder with our clearly best ally, not even just in the Middle East, in the world, I would say. Name me a better ally, right? And so on a consistent basis on so many metrics. So yeah, huge loss. In fact, when that news was breaking from, over the weekend about the loss of Senator Graham, the messages I was flooded with first were folks from Israel because they're 7 hours ahead. So they got the news, they were awake when the news broke, whereas many of us on the East Coast, were sleeping, didn't get the news till much later. So they are very upset over there. They feel the loss. They know this is a big hole in the pro-Israel advocacy world that will just have to be filled by others.
What about the Save America Act? I mean, you talk about going from 53 to 51 and now 52 because of Lindsey Graham's sister. But you've still got Susan Collins, who now said, okay, I'm going to vote for it. But you've got a few others. Murkowski is not committed. Tom Tillis is not committed. Do you think that the Save America Act does pass the U.S. Senate and gets to the president's desk?
I mean, let's face it, it certainly could because it's so popular amongst Americans, right? The notion that you should be only a U.S. citizen to register to vote is so widely popular that you would think that could eventually impact even some wavering senators. But man, I'm not sure we should all run to Polymarket, as to whether it'll actually pass the U.S. Senate. We've seen them kind of, slow walking it. In fact, the latest idea they're playing with, not sure if you heard this, is instead of passing the SAVE Act as the House passed it in its entirety, they're going to say, why don't we just offer states on a voluntary basis some money, billions of dollars, because that's what Washington does best, hand out money,
Right.
billions of dollars to incentivize states to require citizenship for voter registration. In other words, not require that it happen, but
Right.
if you do it, New Jersey, we'll give you money. And it's
Yeah.
or they'll take the money and not really do it, or they'll take the money and not do it right, things like that.
Yeah.
So many of us are pushing back against that watered down idea, and hopefully your viewers would do the same.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, well, on the flip side, I'm old enough to remember Ronald Reagan withholding federal highway funds if the voters in the states, if they did not push to raise the drinking age to 21. Interesting thing, Washington has always been about the money, no matter how far back you go. Last bit, a few seconds left. Your thoughts on the midterms, whether it's the deaths, whether it's the fact that we are caught up on multiple fronts and spending billions of dollars. A lot of people upset that Doge did not go full into what all the fraud that could have and should have been exposed. Do you think the Republicans will hold the House? Certainly, the Supreme Court has helped with throwing out some of these ridiculous districts. But do you think it holds? And do we have a Republican majority come January next year?
That's the thing. I know we're running out of time, and it doesn't look particularly good for Republicans right now. It's a tough environment. Anytime you're in the midterm, with the party of a president who is, this polarizing, it's a tough environment. But like you said, the redistricting, I think, helps. Also, don't forget the left keeps leaning in on its most extreme. The boys and women's sports, you name it, down the line. And so the left may just save the right from itself and allow us to keep the majorities.
All right, Paul Teller, great to see you as always. Keep up the great work. Head of Paul Teller Strategies. We'll be seeing you soon.
See you soon. Appreciate you always. Thank you.
You got it. The Republican National Committee and the New Jersey Republican Party filed suit Thursday to block a state law that allowed some U.S. citizens who have never lived in New Jersey to vote in federal elections based on a relative's past residency. Republicans argue the law violates the New Jersey Constitution's residency requirement. The lawsuit does not affect military members or overseas voters who previously lived in the state. Supreme Court justices were on Capitol Hill asking Congress for more money for security. Justice Amy Coney Barrett fought back tears, describing a heartbreaking moment with her 12-year-old son when she brought a bulletproof vest into her bedroom. He asked what it was.
But I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in the position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one. It's also been reported in the news that roughly 6 weeks ago, I was the victim of a swatting incident. At that point, my teenage son, one of my teenage sons, opened the door to go out with friends and saw in our street, it was full of police cars who had responded to a false report of gunshots and raised voices in my home.
She and Justice Kagan are requesting more funding for heightened security amid rising threats, mostly from left-wing activists. Up next, New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill pushing nuclear energy. Will it ever actually happen in climate change crazy New Jersey? And now a word from one of our great sponsors, Larry Steinhaus's financial tip of the week, real world money advice you were never taught in school, from investing in passive income to protecting your wealth and making smarter financial moves. All right, Larry, great to see you. What do you have for us today?
All right, Bill, here's today's financial tip of the day. Stop confusing a big paycheck with being wealthy. I know people making $300,000 a year and they're broke. They have a nice house, they have an expensive car, they even go on great vacations, and they have beautiful pictures on Facebook and absolutely no money. Why? Because every time their income went up, their lifestyle went up. They got a raise, they bought a better car. They got a bonus, they bought a bigger house. They made an extra $50,000 and somehow they found a way to spend $60,000. That's called lifestyle creep, and it's one of the biggest wealth killers in America. Here's something I teach my students. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, and even more importantly, it's what you do with what you keep. If you make $100,000 and you invest 20 into assets that produce income, you may be building more wealth than someone making $500,000 who spends $100,000 or even $510,000, right? Wealth isn't the Rolex. Wealth is not the Rolex, it's owning the asset that pays for the Rolex. Wealth isn't the vacation. Wealth is having investments that produce enough cash flow to pay for that vacation. And yes, I like nice things. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not exactly preaching a life of ramen noodles and riding a bicycle to work, but I believe your assets should help pay for your lifestyle. So here's my challenge to you today. Before you buy your next toy, ask yourself one question. What asset do I own that's going to pay for that? And if you don't understand how to build income-producing assets, that's exactly why I founded Investor Schooling. At Investor Schooling, we teach real-world financial education, real estate, stock options, taxes, and strategies designed to help you understand how money actually works. Come to one of our free classes and get started and start to increase your financial IQ. Go to investorschooling.com. I'm Larry Steinhaus. Remember, don't just work for your money. Start teaching your money how to work for you. Thanks, Bill.
Larry Steinhaus, always great to see you. Thank you. For more information, go to investorschooling.com. New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill signed legislation directing New Jersey to begin building at least one nuclear power plant to meet surging electricity demand over the next decade. The bill, which passed both chambers unanimously, calls for 1,100 megawatts of new nuclear generation. Supporters say it's essential to power the state's future and avoid reliability problems on the PJM grid.
When I took office 6 months ago, electric rates had just spiked by double digits, and they were slated to surge again. Today, we're paying the price for problems that have built up over decades. Underinvestment in our grid, weak oversight of utility companies, and delays in bureaucracy that constrained our energy supply. And those costs will only compound in the years ahead.
Critics, including the AARP and ratepayer advocates, warn the subsidies could raise monthly electric bills by up to $22, with ratepayers ultimately footing the cost through capacity payments. Environmental groups also raised concerns about nuclear waste. In the wake of the powerful July 4th weekend storms that knocked out power to more than 400,000 JCP&L customers in northern New Jersey, the utility is calling the damage comparable to what we see in hurricanes, extreme heat, fueled thunderstorms with winds topping 65 miles per hour, down trees and lines, leaving some without electricity for days in triple-digit heat. JCP&L thanked customers for their patience and says it will invest $6.8 billion over the next 5 years to strengthen the grid against more frequent severe weather. New Jersey families feeling the pinch as electricity bills remain stubbornly high, with ratepayers seeing double-digit increases in recent years. Critics point to decades of policy choices prioritizing renewable energy mandates, offshore wind projects, the shutdown of reliable power plants while sidelining proven sources like nuclear. Now the governor is shifting focus back to nuclear energy. So what got us here? Is it really going to bring relief? Joining us now, Ross Connolly, who is the Northeast Regional State Director at Americans for Prosperity. Ross, thanks for joining me tonight. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Bill.
So, Ross, my first reaction, and I want to get yours, is extreme annoyance. We went through 8 years of a Democrat governor with the Democrats in power in the legislature, and they actually closed gas-powered nuclear generation, electricity generation plants. Gas power plants close them. We were at energy independence the last year of Chris Christie's term, and it took 8 years to just undo the whole thing. And you're talking about a 10-year plan. So what does this show you from a ratepayer, a taxpayer? Can we actually get back to energy independence with the Democrats in charge?
At the current stage, no. I mean, we supported these moves for nuclear energy. I think they're positive, but that is a long way out to build a nuclear plant. You're not going to see immediate relief for New Jersey ratepayers, and you really pin the tail on the donkey, Bill, talking about how it's been the plan of the state that has been driving up electricity rates and energy rates for New Jerseyans. And, they are still sticking to that. We still have this net zero by 2035 madness that's providing a one size fits all solution to power generation that we know is far more expensive than natural gas and energy abundance. What New Jersey needs is energy abundance, unleash regulations, get the government out of the way. These companies don't need subsidies. They need relief from an overbearing government in Trenton.
Ross, how do you overcome the climate crazies? And even with JCP&L's statement, absurd, talking about that little nod to the climate change folks that want to pretend that storms are now increasing in severity. And of course, it's all based on the dollar value of what gets hit with more people living on the coast, because the actual number of storms, you can go back to the last 100 years, and their narrative is simply not true. So how do you overcome that? Because if you've got the energy companies talking about this nonsense and their solution is to go back to solar and wind, we saw billions of dollars being wasted. The green mandates have failed miserably. So how do you approach this and get this state in particular and other blue states back on track to real energy sources that have capacity factors that are in the 80 percentile, 90 percentile, actually working to keep the air clean, the water clean, and the lights on?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants a clean environment and clean water, but their plan is just total madness, as you pointed out, Bill. It's focused on picking their preferred generation of power that we know has led directly to rates increasing. The way we change this is what we at AFP and Jersey First have been focusing on, is getting average New Jerseyans to speak up, show the increase that they've been dealing with, and get involved in the political process. Go out and vote, and make sure you're voting for energy abundance, not for picking winners and losers. I mean, I'm looking out my window today in the Northeast, and we have Canada has the same type of plan that New Jersey has, yet they have polluted the entire Northeast today with smoke from their wildfires. So what they're doing isn't protecting the environment. Net zero does not protect the environment, and it certainly doesn't help the ratepayers of New Jersey.
Right, and it's not zero. First of all, they vilify CO2, which is also patently absurd and goes against logic and science. But more than that, you see countries like Germany, where they went to wind and they abandoned nuclear. What happened? They had to then rely on coal to keep the lights on. I think they were up 16% year over year. So what's the next step? Let's talk to just quickly the ratepayers themselves. Yes, get involved. Yes, vote. But more and more people are frustrated that government is simply not looking out for them. And could we see this, playing devil's advocate, as a positive that even Mikey Sherrill and the Democrats in Trenton get that nuclear is a good thing?
We absolutely see this as a positive. You know, any step towards having more energy generation. Yes, the past 10 years has been a disaster for New Jersey and has put us on the wrong track. However, we can get off that track and going towards nuclear, having some of these deregulation efforts that the governor seems to support, moving towards microgrids, incentivizing companies to come here, not through taxpayer dollars, but through deregulation, that can provide the energy that we need for New Jersey's future. And we encourage the governor to do that, get away from the status quo of the Governor Murphy that drove rates through the roof. She can be the hero and really fix New Jersey's energy woes by completely getting rid of net zero and going towards an all of the above strategy of energy abundance.
You know, Ross, with the Republicans in a terrible situation, in the minority, having lost the race in 25 by a huge margin, a lot of people feeling very stressed about the prospects of turning the state around. But is it possible, given this victory on nuclear power, to get the governor to the table? You guys have a force out there in the grassroots to get her to consider reopening these peaker plants. We've got one in Sewarren in particular that does not operate at 100% capacity. And I'm talking about the cogeneration natural gas plants that generate electricity. They're there for when the power is at maximum capacity and they ratchet it up to 100% to meet the need. Why are they not at 100% all the time? The plants are already there and working. Has there been any conversation with anyone in the legislature to get the peaker plants to operate full-time at 100%?
We've been talking to Republicans and Democrats, including Democrats in leadership in Trenton, and there is a huge concern. They know that this issue is driving voters to anger, to frustration with their elected officials. And we've found across the entire Northeast region, energy is the winning issue for our side. It is the thing that is most directly impacting New Jersey voters. They're getting upset about it. And we have to your point, Bill, we have the capacity in this state to provide energy and lower rates. We used to be a net exporter of energy.
Right.
Now we're a net exporter of businesses and people. We can turn that tide, but people have to put pressure, continue the pressure on your elected officials because they're feeling the heat. They know it. We hear it in the conversations in the halls of Trenton. We just have to keep up the pressure, and we're seeing that change happen.
Ross Connolly, thanks for joining me, Northeast Regional State Director at Americans for Prosperity. We'll see you soon, Ross. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill.
Now, New Jersey is watching thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in tax revenue walk out the door. A new Focus NJ report reveals just 8 major companies have taken more than 7,000 jobs and nearly $675 million in annual payroll to other states. Up next is Focus NJ Executive Director Althea Ford to break down the missed opportunities and what New Jersey must do to stop the bleeding. Now, a word from another great sponsor, Dr. Adriana Lombardi, Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center of New Jersey.
Here at the Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center, we really love to get to know our patients. We want to work together with them to reach their goals and make them feel the most comfortable they can. I was planning to open the Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center. I wanted a personalized approach to medicine. I felt that medicine was getting commercialized in general, and I had a vision of opening my own practice, including my sister who's a medical esthetician, and being able to treat the patient as a whole. We offer cosmetic procedures, we offer skin cancer surgery, we have general dermatology visits, and different types of non-invasive aesthetic treatments all under one roof.
I focus on non-invasive treatments that help better your skin health and help you also feel good from the inside out.
I try to approach each patient like a family member. I really love to get to know my patients. We have their best interests in mind, so we want to hold their hand on their journey of feeling better about themselves or getting the right treatment done.
Whether it's something non-invasive to something more invasive, we want to make sure that we're thoroughly explaining what the procedure entails, and we're also managing their expectations so we are both on the same page when it comes to results.
Here in the office, I made a promise that we would always use the highest end technology, the most innovative technology and techniques for our patients.
That goes from cool sculpting to Cutera's microneedling device that also is for skin tightening. And then we have different types of lasers by the Luminous that also deliver great results for pigmentation or scars, wrinkles, anything you're looking to address.
After the procedures in our office, our patients often feel so much better about themselves, and people go about life a little bit differently when you have more confidence. So I really feel like it's so important to be the best version of yourself.
Dr. Adriana Lombardi, thank you. Skin Cancer and Cosmetic Surgery Center of NJ. Visit sccsnj.com. Welcome back to Speak for America. I am Bill Spadea. All right, let's get right back to it. New York's share of America's millionaires has plunged from 12.7% to 8.7% over the past decade, the largest drop of any state. A new Citizen Budget Commission study says that the exodus has cost the state nearly $11 billion in tax revenue in just 1 year. Analysts warn Mayor Zohran Mamdani's tax the rich agenda could accelerate the flight of high earners who already pay nearly half of all the state income taxes. A new analysis from Focus NJ reveals the steep cost of New Jersey companies leaving or expanding out of state. The report says only 8 major firms, they represented more than 7,000 jobs leaving, which was nearly $675 million in annual payroll, tens of millions in tax revenue with them. Joining us now, Focus NJ Executive Director Althea Ford to discuss the missed opportunities and what it means for New Jersey's economy. Althea, great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this missed opportunities report. You took a look at 8 companies from Bristol Myers Squibb to Samsung. They downsized, they relocated, or they took their expansion somewhere else. And I know, working with New Jersey Business and Industry Association and other groups, that we are losing a couple $1 billion a year in adjusted gross income. What is this most recent hit with the companies you're talking about, and how bad is it?
Sure. So as the report announced, it's a snapshot of just 8 companies, right? So it's not meant to be a detailed look at all of the companies, but just even in these 8, you're seeing significant money moving out of the state. And so the purpose of this report is to really create the clarion call to say we need to rethink the policies that New Jersey continues to pursue that result in our state's businesses choosing to go elsewhere. They're not necessarily up and leaving, just uprooting and leaving, but they are taking their investments elsewhere, sizable investments elsewhere, and it's leaving us with holes in, property taxes and other areas that we know we need the resources for.
So, a lot of people focus on the jobs that are lost, and a lot of the jobs, though, that are lost, they're lost here. They go with the company, and people leave the state. But what is the impact on the folks that are, as I love to say, digging into New Jersey? They want to stay here. When a company moves out, Samsung moves to Texas, or Bristol Myers goes to Massachusetts, and they move 1,700 jobs. What is that impact to the folks that are staying here? Because we still have a $61 billion budget.
Sure. So we know that it results in the rest of us having to carry the weight of the loss, right? Because even when those companies and those jobs are leaving, the budget hole is just getting larger. And so it creates a lot of pressure for the rest of us in terms of having to think about, well, what tax implications does that have? But also you think about the talent that is then being taken out of the state. We know in New Jersey, we experience a serious outmigration of talent. And so if we don't have businesses here, when individuals are going through our K-12 system and they're making decisions about where to pursue post-secondary opportunities or where to put down roots, if there are no job opportunities here in New Jersey, they're going to seek them elsewhere.
Althea, let me ask you, former Governor Murphy famously said, if taxes are your issue, we may not be your state. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, if taxes are the problem, then get out, because they had no interest in lowering taxes. And it seems that businesses are taking them up on it. What other reasons are driving these businesses away? There was a recent report that came out that we were ranked 50th in business climate. And that is consistent. And I know the average revenue loss on taxes coming from an adjusted gross income departure of more than $2 billion a year. And that's going back more than a dozen years. So, but what are the other reasons that these companies are leaving? Or are taxes the issue?
So I think ultimately, from a business perspective, it boils down to predictability and stability. So in any business, we know that there's a certain amount of, unpredictability, but there are certain things that can be done by states to provide a certain level of predictability and stability that businesses can plan for, and they can prepare for, losses or things down the road. And unfortunately, I think over the last 8 years, and even in prior administrations, there have been policies that were pursued that, in essence, did not allow for a certain that level of stability to be given to businesses. And so ultimately, the businesses have to respond. So you think about the 2.5% the corporate business tax that was supposed to sunset, and then it came back as another name, the corporate transit fee. And so that, just in that exercise, communicating and signaling to business that a tax that was temporary was going to sunset, allowing it to sunset, but then, 3 months later, bringing it back by another name, signaled to the business community that what the government is saying, it cannot necessarily be trusted all the time. And I think that level of instability really then resulted in businesses having to say, well, we're going to have to make some hard decisions. There's also additional policies that have been pursued, such as in this year's budget, the Medicaid tax assessment, which is creating some serious problems with many of our frontline businesses, that it's going to have implications for individuals who are making decisions about their own health insurance, right? And so it's these types of policies that we are concerned about, that signal again to the business community that what government is doing is not necessarily something that can be relied upon and we can't plan for.
Althea, real quick, are you getting any response from your report from the legislature, from the governor's office? I mean, are they going to take this seriously? Because you're talking about more than 7,000 jobs and hundreds of millions in revenue going out the door.
At this time, we haven't had direct conversation with the front office regarding this report, but I do know it is definitely in their hands. And we do hope that it's, it is going to open the door for more conversation. I know that there have been many individuals, such as groups like BIA and others, that have been saying this from the beginning. So this is not news. If anything, it's putting dollars to an existing issue. So hopefully it now will signal that if you're looking for, things that issues that are creating financial strain, we're pointing to one right now, and it's these policies that are very challenging for the business.
Well, I hope every member of the legislature reads missed opportunities. Thank you, Executive Director Althea Ford from Focus NJ. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
After historic losses in last November's election, losing the governor's race by 15 points and watching Democrats flip multiple seats in the Assembly, the state Senate, New Jersey Republicans are at a crossroads, with the party now holding one of the smallest legislative minorities in modern history. The question is, what's next for the Republican Party in the Garden State? Joining me now, Assemblyman Jay Webber, a veteran Republican conservative voice from the 26th District in North Jersey. Always good to see you, Jay. Thank you for taking the time today.
Good to see you, Bill.
So let's talk about it. I mean, you heard my last guest talk about jobs leaving the state. Obviously, the policies the Democrats have put in place for so many decades have just crushed the business environment. We get a tiny victory with the governor signing the nuclear legislation. Okay, that's great, but that's 10 years away. What do you think is next? Because you talk about a crossroads. 2027 is coming up. It is the midterm election of Mikey Sherrill's first term, hopefully only term. And typically the party out of power should do well. But there's a lot of infighting, a lot of discord, and quite honestly, for the voters, there seems to be a lack of message. What do you say to that, and what do you think can be done in the next few months to get ready for next year?
Yeah, well, Bill, I think your perception is right, that there is a disappointing lack of message and a lack of a plan, frankly, that I've seen from Republican leadership in the state. It's early, but it gets late early around here, and they got to get it together. I think there's a little bit of being caught on their heels after the real defeats at the ballot box last November. But to my observation, they still haven't come up with a coherent message and a plan to get us to forget about a majority in the legislature in the midterms, somewhere close. So I'm hopeful that develops, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I mean, win a few seats here and there, right? That would be nice. Protect some of
One
the
or
guys
two
that are
instead
in.
of losing. Yeah, for sure.
Right, exactly. So, we hear this all the time. We have been hearing this back to the George Bush days, that Republicans can only win when you have a moderate who adjusts their message and abandons conservative principles to win over independents. But the truth is, we have more independents coming out voting for pro-life conservative Chris Christie, certainly than we had coming out when you look at the percentages for the last nominee. So it seems that actually the opposite is true. You need somebody with principles to be honest with the voters. They're not necessarily going to reject you, even if they don't agree with you on everything, if you've got integrity. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I do. I think voters are attracted to people who have principle. I don't know that in America people expect to agree with anyone 100% of the time. But what voters, I think, like are people who are principled, who know what they believe, stand up for what they believe, and then they're open to dialogue. You look at Mamdani in New York. People, I'm sure, I hope, disagreed with many of the things he stood for, but they knew who he was, and he didn't make any bones about it. And he stood for what he believed in. He's an extremist, but he's a charismatic extremist, and and that attracted people. I don't think you have to be, you know, I'm not advocating for extremists in the Republican Party. Just have some backbone, have some principle, go out and win advocates. It's a daily grind. You have to go out and do it every day, and the dialogue is crucial. So I think if you stand for something, here's the other thing, Bill. Let's not forget, the Democrats are going to do us favors. You know, I mean, that party is so far off the rails. The heart of that party is an extreme, as you've been talking about, environmentalist party.
Yeah.
It's an extreme socialist party. Frankly, it's angry, it's violent.
Yeah.
It's anti-Semitic in many ways. And, you know, there's a lot of bad stuff, you know, that's at the core of the Democratic message these days. The Republican Party can stand firm, stand true on basic principles, reach out to people, bring them to our side of the aisle. You know, it's possible. It's just not happening today.
You know, it's interesting you say that about Mamdani. I got a lot of flack because I gave him credit from a tactical and a strategic standpoint by saying, look, the guy was smart. He addressed the one issue that independent voters cared about, and that was housing affordability. He's like, he talked about the issue that they were talking about in their cars, on the subway, at the old water cooler, as the statement goes. And then he went after the billionaires on this pied-à-terre tax for their second homes. And I said, well, okay, it was smart money to do that. You know, you're talking about a guy that owns a $5 million second home in New York City. That guy doesn't care. And even if he sells it because of the taxes, somebody else is going to buy it and pay the taxes. So the Republicans missed the mark. And specifically, I keep hearing President Trump talk about how well the stock market is doing. But a lot of the working class folks, they don't own stocks. They're trying to pay the rent. Do you think that in this post-Trump world, I mean, he is a lame duck now. We're going to have a new president in 2028. Do you think that is going to help the Republicans in New Jersey? And I say that as a Trump voter, but it seems to me that the Republicans in New Jersey are too quick to blame him on their losses, number one. And on the other side, he's not helping the message of affordability.
Well, I think it's pretty lame to just point to the president and say we can't win because Donald Trump's in the White House. So I reject that. You know, it's an easy excuse. I think Republicans in New Jersey should be aware of everything. Listen, a lot of people have 401ks. A lot of people have pension funds they're depending on, and the stock market's important to those. But absolutely, we should be talking about, hey, how do we make these electricity bills more affordable? How do we make housing more affordable without jamming condominiums on every corner of every suburban street in New Jersey and dealing with that traffic? You know, how do we get our kids educated in a great school system without having the highest property taxes in the nation? So, I mean, those are kitchen table, bread and butter issues. We're right on them. You know, I think just about every Republican in the legislature and most Republicans in the state would have the right answers. Just got to package it, you know, and can't be afraid to speak to people about these issues directly and on principle. And then please, by all means, stop blaming someone in Washington, D.C. for your own failures here in New Jersey. We gotta win here and focus on what's going on here, and we can do that. It's time. You know, we've got this midterm coming up. It's very important.
Yeah, I love that message, Jay. I think you are absolutely spot on that. Real quick, before I let you go, quick message to independent young people who haven't voted in maybe ever.
Yeah. Listen, the Republican Party is the party of freedom. You know, we're embarking on an unbelievably entrepreneurial age. AI is going to transform the workplace, going to create opportunities, is creating opportunities every day for people who understand how to use the technology. And though that's our young people, that's our kids in college and just out of college. It's an entrepreneurial age. The Republican Party is the party of entrepreneurship. It's the party of freedom. It's the party of deregulation. It's the party of rewarding risk and success and innovation. The Democratic Party is the party of stagnation and bureaucracy and regulation and high taxation and punishing success. We have the message, and especially for those young people, it's just time to join the team that's going to allow you to flourish and create a better future for yourself.
I love it. Assemblyman Jay Webber, we need more Republicans in New Jersey who understand what you understand and are willing and courageous enough and strong enough to lead on it. Always good to see you, Jay. Thank you. Assemblyman Jay Webber. We'll talk soon. A Trump-backed plan to make daylight saving time permanent cleared a key House hurdle on Monday. Sunshine Protection Act passed the House Rules Committee 6-4, sending up a floor vote. The bill would let states lock in year-round daylight saving time and end the twice-yearly clock changes. President Trump has strongly endorsed the measure, calling it a popular win for Americans. I want to just echo that. Yes, it's time to stop changing the clocks. What an antiquated idea. Let's move into the future in a smart way. News around the country right now. A New Jersey woman facing serious charges after police say she sexually assaulted a child younger than 13, recorded the abuse, and shared the video on Snapchat. 25-year-old Victoria Ann Cranmer of Little Egg Harbor was arrested Tuesday and charged with second-degree sexual assault and multiple counts of child sexual abuse material. Authorities say the 14-second video was recorded inside a home bathroom while the child was in her care. She is being held without bail. Terrible. A New Jersey daycare owner under investigation after she was accused of giving children melatonin to make them sleep during nap time. Cheryl Ambicki, 57, owns the Precious Gifts Care Center in Dunellen. State inspectors say at least 2 children were given the supplement without their parents' knowledge. The facility is now closed and the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office is investigating. In Florida, a 28-year-old man fleeing immigration officers was struck and killed by a tractor trailer in St. Augustine. Tuesday morning, this happened. The man was one of 4 people who ran from federal agents at a gas station. He darted across a busy road in traffic. Authorities say it marks the 3rd death nationwide in about a week linked to encounters with ICE agents. Guys, when the law enforcement is there to detain you, your best bet is to go along. Florida executed 74-year-old Dennis Michael Sokor, making him the oldest inmate put to death in the state's modern history. Sokor was convicted of strangling an 18-year-old woman in Broward County on New Year's Day back in 1982. Florida has already carried out 9 executions this year, more than any other state. Turning to California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a major affordability housing bill aimed at speeding up construction and cutting costs. AB 179 streamlines state financing for affordable projects and encourages cities to lower impact fees that can add tens of thousands of dollars per unit. Newsom says the changes will get money out the door faster and reduce red tape, helping build more homes across the state. Well, we'll see how the governor does on this one. Volunteer signups now for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Organizers say they need 60,000 people to help power the games, which begin exactly 2 years from today. Olympic legend Carl Lewis is leading the effort. Applications are opening for roles in operations, ceremonies, sports, medical, technology, and more, both in Los Angeles and at venues across the country. If you want to be a part of history, apply now at la28.org. Up next, Chuck Schumer did what on the Senate floor? Plus, we'll show you a Florida license plate that has some drivers blushing. Welcome back to Speak for America. I am Bill Spadea. Here are a few updates for you. New Jersey joined 11 other states in suing to block the $110 billion merger of Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery. Attorney General Jen Davenport says the deal would create a media giant controlling nearly 1/3 of U.S. films and basic cable programming, driving up prices for consumers and reducing choices at theaters and on TV. The states argue that the combination violates antitrust laws and threatens New Jersey's growing film and television industry. The lawsuit seeks to stop the deal from closing. Yes, I'm sure that's the most important thing going on as we fight to get affordability back in the Garden State. Lord of the Rings director Andy Serkis is pushing back against demands for more diverse casting in the upcoming film, The Hunt for Gollum. Speaking to the BBC, Serkis says the new movie will not engage in politically correct box ticking. He noted Tolkien's world draws heavily from the Norse mythology and described the Shire as very white, saying diversity will only be included where relevant. A little common sense. A grandfather's annual trip with his grandson turned dangerous at Yellowstone National Park when a bison charged and tossed 65-year-old Carl McDaniel. Look at this video. Up in the air on Friday evening. Daniel suffered a broken femur at Bridge Bay Campground after the animal was agitated by a passing truck's horn. Now, the grandfather deliberately ran in the opposite direction to protect his 13-year-old grandson. A quick-thinking photographer rushed the bison, allowing rescuers to reach McDaniel, who I'm calling a hero in this. He immediately asked if his grandson was safe, and yes, he was. And you can't make this up. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer sparked a flurry of reactions on the floor today after an awkward moment captured on camera. Video from the chamber appears to show Schumer breaking wind mid-proceeding, prompting immediate online buzz and jokes from critics.
Now on Iran and the NDAA. When all the Trump administration...
While the Senate pressed on with business, the clip has already gone viral, turning what was likely an embarrassing slip into the day's lightest political moment. A South Florida senior got more than she bargained for with her new license plate. Pompano Beach resident Nancy Dello Stritto, who's nearly 77, was shocked to receive a plate reading SQZ-A55. That's SQZ-A55, which many are reading as squeeze ass. The plate has sparked a lively debate in her retirement community, where the vote to keep it stands at 16-1 in favor. Broward County says they'll replace any offensive plate for free, but for now, she's leaning towards keeping it and maybe even enjoying a few honks down the road. Guys, thanks for watching tonight. Really appreciate you spending time with me, and I certainly enjoy spending time with you today and look forward to continuing to speak for America. I am Bill Spadea. Keep the faith and keep the fight. I'll see you next time.